Hello everyone, and this is Culture Controversial. And Walkies, they'll stick this up your ass and make you uncomfortable. Right, the first one is definite favourite of mine, and it is called Slapshot for Sale. Paul Newman, hell of an actor, from 1977. And I came across it one Saturday morning. That's when TV had guts, and they were prepared to play these and stuff. That wasn't too risque. So yeah, I hope you enjoy. This is about the Hanson brothers. So enjoy.
Hey guys, show us what you got.
These guys are a fucking disgrace.
And I'm telling you, Crow County is just visibly upset by this display. Come on down and get places for the home games. Bring the kids. We got entertainment for the whole family. There goes Jeff Henson into the corner. I think it's Jeff. No, it's Jack. It's 17. I'll have to check that later. Huey puts a crushing check on him on the boards. Oh, I'm telling you, things are really going on out there now. Now Steve is in front of the net. I think that's Steve. Yes. Oh, yeah, this Steve. And I think that was Jack. Well, it was Jeff or Jack. These brothers are stomping all over.
Ooh, nutty, nutty, nutty. Well, why might that be controversial even? Violence in hockey? Yeah, right. Enough said. So this next one is 15 shocking things 1970s British doctors did to the children. Shocking things. Well, I was a kid in the 70s, so here you go. Let's see what's going on here.
Away in the corner of a waiting room with no thing as an appointment time that actually meant anything. A cold stethoscope pressed flat against your bare chest before you even had time to catch your breath. Your name called out across a packed room where everybody could hear exactly why you were there. This was Britain in the 1970s. and the doctors and nurses of that decade did things to children every single day that would end a career today and land straight on the front page of a newspaper if it happened now. Stay with me right to the very end, because number 3 on this list is something almost every viewer over the age of 50 still remembers by smell alone, decades after it last happened to them. Welcome back to the channel where we walk back through the Britain we grew up in together, one memory at a time. If any of this brings something back for you, do me a favour and subscribe, and tell me down in the comments which one of these 15 actually happened to you as a child. We are building something here together, a place where Britain still feels a little bit like home, even 50 years on. Let us start at number 15. Number 15, the weigh-in. Once or twice a year, the whole class lined up in the school hall in nothing but vests and socks, and one by one, you stepped onto a set of metal scales, while the nurse called your height and your weight out loud for anyone standing nearby to hear. If you happened to be the heavier child in that particular row, everybody in earshot knew it within about 4 seconds flat. There was no thought given at all to how that felt standing there half-dressed in front of your classmates, only a clipboard, a pencil, and a number written down in blue biro. A school nurse doing that today in front of 30 children would very likely be suspended by lunchtime, and rightly so. That one only stung your pride for an afternoon. The next one left an actual mark on your arm that lasted rather longer. Number 14. The reused needle. On injection day, the whole class formed a long queue down the corridor, sleeves rolled right up past the elbow, and the very same glass syringe was wiped, boiled in a metal tray, and then used again on the next child standing in line. Nobody ever asked whether you consented to any of it, and nobody bothered explaining what was actually going into your arm. It was simply your turn next, and you stood there and took it. A single needle could pass through dozens of small arms in one single morning before the tray was finally changed for a fresh one. It sounds almost impossible to believe now, and it is exactly the kind of small forgotten detail that stops people scrolling the moment they see it mentioned online today. You survived the needle well enough. Next came the thing you genuinely could not swallow fast enough. Number 13, cod liver oil and malt, delivered straight off the spoon whether you wanted it or not. There was never any asking. A nurse, or more often your own mother, simply tipped your head back and in it went, thick, fishy, and completely impossible to forget for the rest of your life. Some children were handed a spoonful of dark malt extract straight afterward, just to try and kill the taste, which somehow made the entire ritual worse rather than better. It was meant to build strong bones and keep winter colds away, and in fairness, it very probably did some real good over the years. But nobody in 1973 ever once stopped to ask a 7-year-old how they actually felt about swallowing it. That one only punished your tongue for a minute. The next one punished you in full view of your entire class. Number 12. The knit nurse and her fine-tooth comb. She would appear at the classroom door without warning, holding a metal comb and a look on her face that told you exactly why she had come. One by one you were pulled out into the corridor, your head tilted forward under the light, and the comb pulled slowly and firmly through your hair, while she checked for lice in full view of anyone walking past. If she found something, the whole school seemed to know about it by lunchtime, and children could be cruel about it for weeks afterward. Keep this particular nurse in the back of your mind as we go, because she turns up twice more before we finally reach number 1. Public shame was one weapon this decade reached for. The next doctor's answer to almost everything was simply to tell you to stop making a fuss. Number 11. Big boys do not cry. A broken finger, a nasty cut on the knee, a badly twisted ankle from the school playground, and the advice from most family doctors of this era was very often exactly the same. Grit your teeth and get on with it. Painkillers beyond a children's aspirin were barely even offered, and comfort of any kind was treated almost like a form of weakness in a young patient. You limped home from the surgery on the corner of the high street, holding back tears, because that was simply what was expected of a child in this country. Nobody used the word trauma back then. Doctors of that generation mostly used the word nonsense instead. That doctor kept his patients quiet, with nothing more than a stern look. The next one filled the whole surgery with smoke while he worked on you. Number 10. Smoking on the ward, and right there in the surgery itself. Family doctors lit cigarettes mid-consultation while they examined you, tapping ash into a glass tray on the desk between questions, and hospital corridors carried a permanent grey haze from staff taking a break between rounds. Ashtrays sat openly on desks just a few feet away from sick children being treated for chest infections. Nobody in 1974 thought twice about any of it, because roughly half the adult population smoked at the time, and doctors were certainly no exception to that. Looking back now at old photographs from British hospitals of this era, you can genuinely see the smoke hanging thick in the air just above the beds themselves. That was simply the atmosphere of the place back then. The next entry on this list was a genuine national scandal that made the evening news. Number 9. The whooping cough jab, given right through the middle of a very public health scare. In the early 1970s, a paediatric neurologist named John Wilson, working at Great Ormond Street Hospital in London, published research linking the whooping cough vaccine to brain damage in a small number of children. The story spread fast through newspapers and television bulletins, and within just a couple of years, vaccination rates across the whole of Britain had fallen from around 80% down to barely 30% nationwide. Yet in surgeries up and down the country, plenty of doctors kept quietly urging worried parents to go ahead with the jab regardless, caught somewhere between the frightening headlines and their own clinical training. Whooping cough cases then climbed sharply again for the rest of that decade, a pattern public health researchers still study closely today whenever a fresh vaccine scare breaks out across social media. That fear kept some children away from the surgery altogether. The next item on this list kept children locked away from the people who loved them most. Number 8. Parents banned from the ward. A report led by the surgeon Sir Harry Platt back in 1959 had already recommended that sick children should see their mothers and fathers whenever they needed to, without restriction. And yet well into the 1970s, hospitals right across Britain still restricted visiting to one short afternoon a week, sometimes even less than that. At Bow Arrow Hospital in Dartford, children as young as 2 years old were remembered gripping the bars of their cots and crying long after visiting time had quietly ended for the day. One woman named Patricia, treated as a small child in an earlier decade, once said her own parents were banned from seeing her altogether after she became too upset whenever they left the ward. That very same cold policy was still dragging on in plenty of wards a full 20 years later. If a hospital tried anything close to that today, it would be front page news within a single day. That silence in an empty ward was one kind of loneliness entirely. The next item on this list put
Right, what do you think of that? I was a kid in the 70s, and whatever your points, for me, some good points, some not so good points. It did build character and learning to cope. That's where, you cope with bullying, when you're a kid, and you learn to cope with it. It doesn't. It's part of growing up and learning stature. Things about the needles, obviously, bullying should be limited, but it's just that the needle's gone way too far, in my view. So and the most important thing in the walk scope with, in the name of this this bloody lecturing, or being lectured at, in the name of freedom and care and what have you. They have a policy where kids can't hug. And then they're on about kids can't have parents meeting. They're criticising that. So be careful, throwing stones in a glass house. Yeah, you want to be careful. A lot of it is I found that incredibly patronising. So anyway, say what you think. Right, so that's definitely controversial. See you for part 2 soon.